good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here, and welcome to the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue EMS Awards. This is an awesome time of the year. We get to celebrate the work that everybody's done and some awesome calls that we've ran and recognized. We run a lot of calls a day. We run over 300 calls a day, and this is a very, very small portion of what we do, and everyone does a great job every day. But these are some exceptional calls that we get a chance to really recognize, meet with some patients and family, have hospital staff here. So hopefully everybody enjoys this. We're gonna get moving here and get everybody to come forward here in a second. But before that, I want to turn it over to Fire Chief Corey Smedley.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
As the captain mentioned, this is just an appetizer of what Montgomery County Fire and Rescue does every day. This is an awesome organization consisting of our civilian members, our volunteers, and our career staff. And I'm just so proud to be a part of this organization. We're going to just demonstrate to you all the great things that happen on a regular basis. And as the captain mentioned, this is just a small example of that. What I said, if you were here yesterday, you'll hear it again. Over the next 3 days, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, we're recognizing 19 incidents. Your Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service has 37 community-based fire stations to cover 500 square miles. And 100% of the time, for these 19 incidents, we were not there when the emergency occurred. That means somebody had to notify us. Somebody had to inform us that something or someone was in need of our service. Out of those 19 times, 16% of the time, somebody, a resident, a community member, knew what to do and did bystander CPR. We unfortunately can't be everywhere when something happens. So when we talk about the chain of survival, your Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service is starting to evolve to make sure that we're working with our community to train them, help them be resilient, and help them help each other even before we get there. So I'm so proud of that work. I'm so proud of the work of our first responders, our firefighters and paramedics that's out on our roadways and in the communities every day doing great things. Keep up the good work, everyone, and please stay safe out there.
On the afternoon of Friday, February 7, 2025, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue units from Rescue 1 and Station 50 were dispatched to a residence in Bethesda for cardiac arrest. Upon arrival, the first-in crew from Rescue 1 found the patient lying on the floor with bystander CPR already in progress. The patient's roommate, retired firefighter Richard Hoy, reported hearing a thud. Upon investigating, he discovered the patient was unresponsive and pulseless. Mr. Hoy immediately initiated chest compressions and called 911 for emergency assistance. MCFRS crews performed a rapid assessment, confirming the patient was pulseless with agonal respirations. High-performance CPR was initiated, and oropharyngeal airway was placed. Ventilations were provided via bag valve mask, and the patient was connected to a cardiac monitor. The initial rhythm was ventricular fibrillation. The patient was immediately defibrillated, and chest compressions continued. In coordination, crews established an IO vascular access and administered epinephrine, amiodarone, and lactated ringers. Despite 2 subsequent defibrillation attempts at the second and third pulse checks, the patient remained in ventricular fibrillation. A second set of AED pads were applied in preparation for dual sequential defibrillation if needed. At the 4th pulse check, the patient achieved a return of spontaneous circulation with strong, palpable pulses. Crews secured the airway using a supraglottic airway device and continued assisting ventilations. A 12-lead EKG revealed a STEMI. After stabilizing the patient on scene, he was packaged and transported to Suburban Hospital. During transport, the patient's condition was closely monitored. Serial 12-lead EKGs were performed and transmitted. Ventilations were supported until EMS Duty Officer 701 placed the patient on a ventilator, and a medical notification was conducted with Suburban via EMRC. Upon arrival, care was transferred to the emergency department staff. The patient was stabilized and taken emergently to the cardiac catheterization lab, followed by transfer to the intensive care unit. His condition continued to improve during hospitalization. This incident highlights the critical importance of the chain of survival in improving outcomes for sudden cardiac arrest. Thanks to the rapid activation of 911, immediate bystander CPR by retired firefighter Richard Hoy, the skilled and coordinated efforts of MCFRS crews, and the high-quality care at Suburban Hospital, the patient was discharged to a rehabilitation facility and ultimately home, neurologically intact, on February 27, 2025. Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service commends all involved for their professionalism, swift action, and dedication to saving lives. My name is Thomas Bradrick, and I received emergency medical service from MCFRS on February 7th of this year. Unfortunately, I don't remember any of the incident. I seem to have remained completely unconscious throughout the whole thing, as well as throughout subsequent quadruple bypass surgery, and so am unable to offer very much detail. I have been told, however, by my housemate Richard Hoy, retired from Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Services, that your team and I wanted to include Richard in that as well. We're exemplary in their care. Richard has told me that he heard me fall out of my desk in the room, apparently heard labored breathing, immediately checked on me, started CPR, and called 911. Thanks to his prompt response and that of MCFRS, I apparently suffered no brain damage due to anoxia and have, with the help of cardio rehab at Suburban Hospital, completely recovered. I have been told, example, by my anesthesiologist at a recent colonoscopy, that rarely is the outcome good when someone suffers a heart attack at home, and so realize that I have been incredibly lucky throughout this whole ordeal. Please accept my heartfelt thanks for your work. I look forward to being able to thank in person those who saved my life.
Thank you very much. As I said, I remember nothing about the incident, thankfully, and simply want to reiterate my thanks to the crew.
On the afternoon of Thursday, April 17th, 2025, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service units from Station 10 and 26 responded to a choking patient at an assisted living facility in Potomac. Upon arrival, crews found an elderly patient in a wheelchair suffering from severe respiratory distress. Facility staff reported that the patient began choking while eating lunch. Crews quickly assessed the patient and observed labor breathing with retractions. Suspecting a complete airway obstruction, they attempted to clear the airway, but the patient's jaw was clenched, preventing access. Despite continued efforts, the obstruction could not be relieved and the patient deteriorated into respiratory arrest. Attempts to ventilate using a bag valve mask were unsuccessful due to the blocked airway. Recognizing that the patient was in immediate danger of dying and the necessity for the procedure, firefighter paramedic Jacobson made the life-saving decision to bypass the airway obstruction by performing a surgical cricotherectomy. After making an incision with a scalpel, he successfully inserted an endotracheal tube through the cricoid membrane, restoring the patient's ability to be ventilated and resulting in an immediate improvement in his condition. Following the procedure, the crew worked together to stabilize the patient by initiating IV access, suctioning the airway, and providing assisted ventilations. The patient was transported to Suburban Hospital, where he arrived conscious and able to follow simple commands. The obstructing food bolus was later visualized and removed en route. After further treatment in the intensive care unit, the patient was discharged neurologically intact on May 2nd, 2025. Firefighter paramedic Jacobson's decisive action, advanced clinical skills, and calm execution under pressure directly saved a life in the field. His performance exemplifies the highest standards of emergency medical care and reflects great credit upon himself and the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service. Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service is proud to recognize the personnel for their outstanding professionalism, dedication, and commitment to excellence in patient care.
On the evening of Thursday, February 13th, 2025, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue units from Station 20 and Rescue 1 were dispatched for an unconscious person at a church in Bethesda. Upon arrival, crews found an unresponsive individual lying in a stairwell, surrounded by family and friends. According to the patient's wife, they were on their way to a church meeting when, near the top of the stairs, the patient suddenly paused, collapsed, and became unresponsive. Concerned about his condition, she immediately called 911. MCFRS personnel quickly repositioned the patient to a supine position on the stairway landing and began assessment. The patient was found to be pulseless and apneic. Crews initiated high-performance CPR and connected the patient to a cardiac monitor, which revealed an initial rhythm of ventricular fibrillation. Defibrillation was performed and chest compressions resumed. An oropharyngeal airway was placed, ventilations were provided via bag valve mask, and an IO access was established. During the second pulse check, the patient converted to a pulseless electric activity, prompting continued compressions and ventilations. At the third pulse check, the patient achieved return of spontaneous circulation with strong palpable pulses. A 12-lead EKG was obtained and vital signs were assessed. The patient began breathing spontaneously and then became agitated, clenching on the oropharyngeal airway. Ketamine was administered for sedation, allowing removal of the airway adjunct and placing a bilateral nasopharyngeal airways to maintain patency. Due to tachypnea and shallow respirations, assisted ventilations were continued. Once stabilized, the patient was packaged and transported to Suburban Hospital. During transport, crews continuously monitored vital signs, established secondary vascular access, performed serial 12-lead EKGs, and conducted a medical notification with Suburban via EMRC. Upon arrival, care was transferred to emergency department staff. The patient was intubated and stabilized before being transferred to the intensive care unit, where his condition continued to improve. Thanks to the calm and coordinated efforts of MCFRS personnel and the exceptional care provided by the staff at Suburban Hospital, the patient was discharged neurologically intact to a rehab facility and later returned home on March 7th, 2025. Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service proudly recognizes the dedication, professionalism, and teamwork demonstrated by all personnel involved in this life-saving response. Thank you for the opportunity to express our gratitude to the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Team for their rapid response to a 911 call on February 13th, 2025. My husband had just collapsed and was experiencing cardiac arrest. The team raced down the driveway and immediately began CPR and other procedures that saved his life. I also appreciated the calming influence of one team member talking to me. We are fortunate to have such a professional and dedicated rescue staff in Montgomery County. They deserve this special recognition.
On the evening of Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue units from Stations 5 and 19 were dispatched to a residence in Silver Spring for a report of a patient experiencing decreased consciousness and difficulty breathing. While en route, the call was upgraded to a cardiac arrest, prompting the dispatch of paramedic engine 718 and EMS duty officer 701 to the scene. Upon arrival, crews found the patient lying on the bedroom floor. According to the patient's family, he had collapsed suddenly and became unresponsive, prompting them to call 911. MCFRS personnel performed a rapid assessment and found the patient to be pulseless and apneic. High-performance CPR was immediately initiated. An oropharyngeal airway was placed. Assisted ventilations were provided via bag valve mask, and the patient was connected to a cardiac monitor, which showed an initial rhythm of ventricular tachycardia. The patient was defibrillated, CPR was resumed, and IO vascular access was established. At the first pulse check, the patient's rhythm had converted to a pulseless electrical activity, or PEA, and epinephrine was administered. Shortly after, the patient began making sounds and moving his lower extremities and his head. A bedside ultrasound confirmed active circulation, indicating a return of spontaneous circulation. Crews worked efficiently to obtain vital signs, perform a 12-lead EKG, which revealed the patient was suffering from a STEMI. The patient was stabilized on scene and transported to the EMS unit for urgent transport to Holy Cross Hospital. During transport, the patient's condition was continuously monitored, vital signs were reassessed, and serial EKGs were performed and transmitted. Lactated ringer solution was administered. A medical notification was conducted with Holy Cross Hospital via EMRC. As transport progressed, the patient's mental status improved significantly. He was able to follow commands and communicate verbally with the crew. Upon arrival at Holy Cross, care was transferred to the emergency department staff. The patient was stabilized and transferred to the intensive care unit where his condition continued to improve. Thanks to the quick activation of emergency services, the skilled response and coordination of MCFRS crews, and the exceptional care provided by Holy Cross Hospital, the patient was discharged home neurologically intact just 2 days later on February 21st, 2025. Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service proudly recognizes the dedication, professionalism, and teamwork of all personnel involved in this successful resuscitation and outcome.
On the morning of Friday, March 21st, 2025, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue units from Stations 1 and 19 were dispatched to the Silver Spring Transit Center for a cardiac arrest. Upon arrival, crews found bystanders performing CPR on an adult male lying on the sidewalk. According to witnesses, the patient was operating a bus when he informed coworkers that he was not feeling well. He managed to safely pull over the bus, but collapsed upon exiting the vehicle. Coworkers quickly responded, calling 911, beginning chest compressions, retrieving a public access AED, and delivering 2 shocks before Montgomery County Fire Rescue crews arrived. Upon assessment, fire and rescue personnel found the patient to be pulseless and apneic. High-performance CPR was immediately initiated, assisted ventilations were provided via bag valve mask, and the patient was placed on a cardiac monitor, which revealed an initial rhythm of ventricular fibrillation. The patient was defibrillated, CPR resumed, vascular access was established via IO route, and amiodarone was administered. At the second pulse check, the patient remained in ventricular fibrillation and was defibrillated again. On the following check, the rhythm had changed to torsades de pointes, prompting another defibrillation. Crews continued high-performance CPR and applied a second set of AED pads in preparation for a dual sequential defibrillation. At the fourth pulse check, the patient was still in ventricular fibrillation and DSD was administered. As CPR continued and a second vascular access site was secured, the patient suddenly became responsive, yelling, moving his arms, and attempting to sit up. Crews quickly worked to calm the patient, assess vital signs, and perform 12-lead EKG. Once stabilized, the patient was prepared for transport and moved to the EMS unit for rapid transfer to Holy Cross Hospital. During transport, the patient's condition and vital signs were closely monitored. Serial 12-lead EKGs were performed and transmitted, and a medical notification was conducted via EMRC with Holy Cross Silver Spring. The patient continued to improve and became increasingly alert, able to communicate with the crew. Upon arrival at Holy Cross Hospital, care was transferred to the emergency department staff. The patient was stabilized and later admitted to the intensive care unit. He was subsequently transferred to White Oak Medical Center for placement of an internal defibrillator. This case exemplifies the vital importance of the chain of survival in cardiac arrest emergencies. Thanks to the rapid activation of 911, early and effective bystander CPR, rapid defibrillation via public access AED, the advanced skills and teamwork of MCFRS crews, and the excellent care provided by Holy Cross and White Oak Medical Center, the patient was discharged home neurologically intact on March 27, 2025. Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service proudly recognizes the dedication, professionalism, and outstanding collaboration demonstrated by all personnel involved in this life-saving response.
On the afternoon of Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue units from Station 18, 25, and 40 were dispatched to Longmead Crossing Park in Silver Spring for the report of a patient in cardiac arrest. Upon arrival, crews located bystanders performing CPR upon an unresponsive individual lying on the soccer field. According to witnesses, the patient had been participating in a pickup soccer game when he reported feeling short of breath and as though he might pass out. Moments later, he collapsed on the field. Teammates quickly assessed him, determined he was not breathing and had no pulse, and immediately called 911. Public Safety Emergency Communications Specialist Emma Ford answered the call. Ms. Ford confirmed that the patient was unresponsive, not breathing, and without a pulse. She remained calm and provided clear instructions to bystanders, guiding them through pre-arrival CPR while staying on the line until the arrival of fire and rescue crews. Upon reaching the patient, MCFRS crews confirmed that the patient was pulseless and apneic. High-performance CPR was initiated, assisted ventilations were provided via a bag valve mask, and the patient was connected to the cardiac monitor, which revealed ventricular fibrillation. The patient was defibrillated and chest compressions resumed. Vascular access was obtained via IO. At the next pulse check, the patient remained in ventricular fibrillation, prompting a second defibrillation. Crews continued high-performance CPR and administered amiodarone and epinephrine. A third defibrillation was performed, following a subsequent pulse check. At the fourth pulse check, the patient achieved a return of spontaneous circulation with strong palpable pulses present. A 12-lead EKG was performed, and the patient was stabilized, packaged, and prepared for immediate transport to Holy Cross Hospital. While en route, the patient's condition and vital signs were monitored, serial 12-lead EKGs were performed and transmitted, and a medical notification was conducted with Holy Cross via EMRC. During transport, the patient began breathing spontaneously, showed purposeful movement in his extremities, regained consciousness, and was able to speak to the crew. Upon arrival at Holy Cross, care was transferred to the emergency department staff. The patient was stabilized and later admitted to the ICU. He was subsequently transferred to White Oak Medical Center for the placement of an internal defibrillator. This incident highlights the critical importance of the chain of survival in cardiac arrest emergencies. Thanks to the rapid activation of 911, immediate bystander CPR, the excellent pre-arrival instructions from Ms. Ford, the expertise and coordination of MCFRS crews, and the outstanding care provided by the teams at Holy Cross and White Oak Medical Center, the patient was discharged home neurologically intact on April 8, 2025. Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service commends the dedication, professionalism, and teamwork demonstrated by all personnel involved in this successful resuscitation.
Hi, Montgomery Fire and Rescue. I want to say thank you for saving my life. I was playing soccer with another couple of guys, and my son, I'm going to explain you what exactly happened.
Hey, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue. On April 2nd, 2025, my father and I were playing soccer with a bunch of fellas, how we usually do every Wednesday. In the middle of the game, my father went into cardiac arrest. His heart completely stopped. I ran to my phone without thinking twice and I dialed 911. The operator was very helpful and walked me through how to perform CPR. I did CPR on my father for about 3 minutes. Within those 3 minutes, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue showed up and rushed to my father. They gave CPR to my father for a few more minutes, still no pulse. They then jumped him twice, shocked him, and there was a pulse again. I knew that my father was in good hands. I just remember seeing about 6 EMS personnel, each playing a big role in saving my father's life. They were there, and then they were able to save him. My father and I just want to thank you guys. sincerely for everything, and you really deserve this recognition. Thank you.
On the afternoon of Saturday, November 9th, 2024, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service units from stations 8, 22, and 29 were dispatched to the Woodside Deli in Germantown for a report of a cardiac arrest. Upon arrival, crews found an unresponsive patient with bystander CPR in progress. Witnesses reported that while eating lunch, the patient suddenly collapsed. MCFRS personnel quickly assessed the patient and confirmed that he was pulseless and apneic. High-performance CPR was immediately initiated, ventilations were provided via bag valve mask, and the cardiac monitor was applied and showed an initial rhythm of pulseless ventricular tachycardia. The patient was defibrillated and chest compressions were resumed without delay. During the second pulse check, the patient remained in ventricular tachycardia and was defibrillated a second time. Intraosseous vascular access was established. At the next pulse check, the patient achieved return of spontaneous circulation with strong palpable pulses. Crews administered amiodarone, obtained vital signs, and performed a 12-lead EKG, which revealed sinus tachycardia and evidence of a myocardial infarction. Once the patient was stabilized on scene, he was then packaged and transported emergently to Shady Grove Medical Center. En route, the team secured an advanced airway, initiated an amiodarone drip, and conducted a medical consult with hospital staff via EMRC. During transport, the patient rearrested. High-performance CPR was resumed, and epinephrine was administered. Following the next pulse check, the patient again achieved ROSC. A norepinephrine drip was started, and the patient's conditions had continuously been monitored. Upon arrival at the hospital, care was transferred to awaiting emergency department staff. The patient was stabilized and taken directly to the cardiac catheterization lab for further intervention, then admitted to the intensive care unit for continued care. This incident highlights the importance of the chain of survival in improving patient outcomes from sudden cardiac arrest. The rapid activation of 911, immediate bystander CPR, expert care from Montgomery County Fire and Rescue crews, and advanced treatment by the staff at Shady Grove Medical Center contributed to a remarkable outcome. The patient was discharged neurologically intact to a rehab facility on November 23rd, 2024, and returned home 1 week later. Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service proudly recognizes the dedication, professionalism, and exceptional teamwork of all personnel involved in this life-saving response.
All right, thank you everybody for coming today. As you can see, this is a team effort from start to finish, from the everyday heroes all the way through the awesome hospital staff that we work with. It really is an honor to stand up here and give these awards out. We run a lot of calls and a lot of awesome calls, and this is a very, very small piece of that picture, but it's an honor to stand here and say thank you for the hard work that you do. Also want to thank not only our hospital partners, but our leadership, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue. They do a great job at supporting us every day in events like this. Our everyday heroes that don't have to stand up and do the things they do, but they do, and it makes a huge impact. Thank you to 1075 Media and to our news partners here today. And thank you to Megan here, who does a whole lot of work to put this together. It takes a huge effort to get everyone here, and it really pays off in the end being able to celebrate all this. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming. We're going to close it out now, but please feel free to hang around, talk, and spend some time together.